I remember his touch, the way his fingers traced the outline of my face, his lips pressing gently against mine. I remember his touch, the way his fingers traced the outline of my face, his lips pressing gently against mine. His hand, warm and gentle, slid down to my shoulders, pulling me closer until our bodies were pressed together, heat radiating between us. My heart pounded in my chest as his breath mingled with mine, each kiss deepening, becoming more urgent, more necessary. His fingers tangled in my hair, tilting my head back, allowing his lips to explore my neck, trailing soft kisses that sent shivers through my skin. I melted into him, feeling his strength and tenderness collide in the way he held me, the way his hand moved down my back, tracing the curves of my body with a slow, deliberate touch. His lips met mine again, hungry this time, full of passion that had been building, unspoken between us for so long. My hands roamed over his chest, feeling the rise and fall of his breath as we lost ourselves in each other, in the moment that felt like it could last forever. We sank down together, his body above mine, his weight comforting, grounding me as the world faded away. His hands found mine, fingers entwining, holding tight as our breath synced. The rhythm between us becoming a silent conversation. His eyes locked on mine, a mixture of tenderness and desire that made me feel more seen than ever before. In that moment, it was just us, our hearts and bodies moving together as one, wrapped in the heat of the night, the intensity of our connection consuming everything else. It felt like a dream, like something out of a romance novel. His name was Lucas, my brother's best friend. I knew it was wrong from the start, but I couldn't help myself. I had been in love with him for years. The moment I gave in, the guilt began to creep in too. He had a girlfriend, and my brother Dave would never forgive me if he found out. But in those stolen moments, none of that seemed to matter. I just wanted to feel wanted, loved, and cherished. Lucas made me feel all of that and more. But deep down, I knew it wouldn't last. Then came the day I realized I was pregnant. The shock was overwhelming, and my first instinct was panic. I didn't know what to do. I was terrified of losing Lucas, of facing Dave, and of what everyone would think of me. More than that, I didn't know if I could handle raising a child. I wasn't ready for motherhood, and Lucas had made it clear that our relationship was nothing more than a secret fling. He would never leave his girlfriend for me. That's when the idea came to me. I knew it was wrong, but it was the only way I could think of to save myself. I would pin the pregnancy on someone else. Maybe then I wouldn't have to face the consequences of my actions. Maybe then I wouldn't lose everything. There was one person who could take the fall, Jake, a quiet guy who had always had a crush on me. We had gone out a few times, but nothing serious had ever happened between us. I figured he was the perfect target. He wasn't close to Lucas or my brother, and he wasn't the type to fight back. If I could convince him that the baby was his, maybe I could avoid the shame and judgment that I knew was coming. But first, I needed to make love to him. That night, I invited him to my apartment. I was in my short, sexy dress, and I had a bottle of red wine. That night, I invited him to my apartment. I was in my short, sexy dress, and I had a bottle of red wine. Jake walked in, his eyes lingering on me as I poured the wine. The tension between us thick and undeniable. We sat close on the couch, his nervous laughter giving way to something more serious as I leaned in, my lips brushing against his. He froze for a moment, unsure, but then I kissed him again, deeper this time, his hands instinctively resting on my hips as the moment took hold of us. I stood, taking his hand, leading him to the bedroom without a word. He followed, wide-eyed and hesitant, but I could feel the excitement radiating from him. Once inside, I pushed him gently onto the bed, climbing over him, straddling his waist as I unbuttoned his shirt. His breath quickened as my fingers slid across his chest, tracing the lines of his muscles. He looked up at me, desire mixed with confusion, but he didn't resist. My lips found his neck, kissing, biting softly, feeling him tense beneath me as I continued to explore his body, unraveling the distance that had always been between us. His hands finally came alive, gripping my waist as I moved against him, our breaths mingling in the silence of the room. I could feel the need in him, the way his body responded to every touch, every kiss. The wine, the dress, the secrecy, it all faded away until it was just us. Tangled in the sheets, our bodies finding a rhythm. A desperate dance that had no words, only sensation as we made love under the dim light, our world collapsing into this one night. I reached out to Jake, pretending to be scared and confused. I told him I was pregnant and that I thought the baby might be his. The look on his face when I told him, it haunts me. He looked so surprised, so hopeful. He asked if I was sure, and I lied. I told him I wasn't completely sure, but that it was possible. He believed me, and that's when I knew I had him. As the months passed, I could see the excitement building in Jake. He was planning for the future, talking about us becoming a family, and I hated myself more with each passing day. But I couldn't stop. I had already set the lie in motion, and now I had to see it through. The guilt was unbearable, but I kept telling myself it was for the best. Then, everything fell apart. Lucas found out about the pregnancy. He confronted me one night, asking if the baby was his. I tried to lie, but the look in his eyes, he knew. I broke down, confessing everything. Lucas was furious. He told me he never wanted to see me again and that I had ruined everything. My heart shattered into a million pieces. I had lost him, and now I was trapped in this lie with Jake. To make matters worse, Jake's family found out about the pregnancy. They were overjoyed, planning baby showers and talking about the future. I could barely look them in the eye, knowing that I was deceiving them all, but it was too late to turn back now. The day the baby was born was the day the truth finally came out. Jake had insisted on a paternity test, just to be sure. I had hoped, prayed even that the baby would look like him, that maybe fate would save me from my own mistakes. But fate wasn't on my side. The test came back and it was undeniable. Jake wasn't the father. The look on his face when he found out, my heart broke for him. He was devastated, confused, and hurt. He couldn't understand why I had lied, why I had made him believe the baby was his. He walked away without a word, and I knew I had lost him too. My family disowned me when they found out the truth. My brother Dave, the one person I thought would always be there for me, told me he never wanted to see me again. He couldn't believe I had lied to everyone, especially Jade, and dragged them all into my mess. My parents were ashamed, embarrassed by my actions, and I was left completely alone. Now, I sit here with my baby in my arms, wondering how everything went so wrong. I wanted love, security, and a way out of my mistakes, but instead, I've lost everything. I look into my daughter's eyes and see the innocence there, and it kills me to know that I've brought her into a world built on lies. I made so many mistakes, and now I have to live with the consequences. I thought I could manipulate my way out of the situation, but in the end, the truth always finds a way to come out. And when it does, it's like a tidal wave, sweeping away everything in its path. I wanted love, but what I found was heartache. I wanted security, but what I got was isolation. I wanted to avoid my regrets, but now they haunt me every day. My heart aches for the family I've lost, for the love I'll never have with Lucas, and for the life I could have had if only I had been honest from the start. This is my story, my mistake, and now I have to find a way to live with it.